How did a man who claims he had 13 alibi witnesses get convicted of murder and serve 20 years in prison?
And how does a Dateline reporter know who to trust as he investigates the case?
It's time to preview 13 Alibis.
That's on this episode of So Much Crime,
So Little Time.
Before we jump into today's episode, don't forget that we are on Patreon, patreon.com/so much crime, so little time. If you go there and become a member, you'll get lots of cool stuff, some unedited clips from the show, full-length interviews, and some swag. And we'll also call out your name on the podcast if you so wish. By becoming a member, you are also helping us make this show, which is, of course, fantastic, because the show is, of course, fantastic.
Welcome to So Much Crime, So Little Time. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Dee, and in this episode, we'll introduce you to 13 Alibis, a podcast from Dateline NBC.
After that, we tackle a true crime question of the week.
If you haven't listened to 13 Alibis, that's great. This is one of our preview episodes.
Here, all we do is introduce you to the setting and discuss the first episode of the series. There are no spoilers for what's to come.
You'll also find a link to 13 Alibis in our show notes.
In our next episode, we'll discuss the whole series. But right now, we just want to decide if this is a crime that's worth your time.
Okay, Jeff, this crime happened on June 19th, 1996. Before we get into the story, let's hop into the time machine to a great time for movies, a great time for songs. I have two things for you.
Okay.
Do you want me to start with music or movies?
Let's start with movies.
Okay, movies. I'm going to give you a quote from a movie, a couple of quotes, and see how long it takes you to get it.
Love it.
Okay. Don't make plans for August.
Is it Independence Day?
Yeah! How did you get that? I don't want you to get that so quickly. I want to use a better one.
Okay.
We're gonna redo that. Okay. I'm gonna start with this quote. You know, this was supposed to be my weekend off, but no. You got me out here dragging your heavy ass through the burning desert with your dreadlocks sticking out the back of my parachute.
D, you understand this is a movie I've seen 10,000 times.
Well, we have discussed it before, which on the podcast, which I thought was funny. But I couldn't help it. It was on, like it was number one in Ireland at the time.
I want to hear what else you pulled from that movie. Is that do you have other quotes?
I do. We've always believed we weren't alone. On July 4th, we'll wish we were. Earth, take a good look. It could be your last.
I want to hear you do the Bill Pullman speech at the end.
No way. Can't ruin it.
Okay. Anyway, Independence Day. Fantastic movie.
These extraterrestrials don't want a phone home. They want our home. That was one of the taglines.
Oh, that's such a bad tagline.
I know. Warning, your next stop may not be there. They only want one thing, destruction. Enjoy the Super Bowl. It may be your last. Yeah.
Love this movie. Okay.
Great one. Okay, do you want to do one? And then we'll come back to mine.
I have a movie that was the number one movie. So that was a movie, Independence Day came out that summer. But when this crime happened, it was a few weeks before that. And the movie that was number one in the U.S. at that time, I have just one tagline for it. You ready? Alcatraz. Only one man has ever broken out. Now 5 million lives depend on two men breaking in.
I have no idea. You know I'm terrible at this.
Do you want me to tell you who's in it?
Yeah.
It's a fantastic cast. Nicolas Cage, Sean Connery, the city of San Francisco. No.
I was 9.
The Rock. It's The Rock.
Like the movie star?
No. It's about Alcatraz. One of the
I was joking.
One of the great San Francisco movies. Have you seen it?
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's a very good bad movie.
Oh, I love good bad movies.
Yeah, it's a big dumb action movie.
Oh, I don't know if I like big dumb action movies.
Okay. Well, it's worth seeing. Sean Connery is great in it. Nicolas Cage is fantastic.
I do enjoy Sean Connery. Okay. Well, I do a flat read that you're going to get straight away.
Sure.
A song that spent 7 weeks at the top of the charts in Ireland.
All right.
I heard he had a style, and so I came to see him and listen for a while. And there he was, this young boy, stranger to my eyes. I think that was an excellent flat read, because if I read a flat, you would have got it straight away.
I feel like this is very familiar, but I don't know what it is.
Okay, I'm going to read it one more time. And I'm going to read it less good. Less good? Less well. I heard he had a style, and so I came to see him and listen for a while. And there he was, this young boy, stranger to my eyes. Oh my God, Jeff.
Give me a hint. Genre? Is it
Like, no.
rock, R&B?
R&B.
I don't know. What is this?
Strumming my pain with fingers.
Wait, Lauryn Hill?
Living my life.
Or the Fugees? I guess they're technically Fugees, right? What's the name of that song?
Killing
Me Softly. That's it. Okay. All right. I have a
Watch
song.
out for me.
I have a song. I have a flat reading of a song that's I feel like is really easy, and I tried to find the part of the song that was a little less easy.
I mean, that's what I did.
I know, and I still didn't get it. All right, and then I'm going to come back and talk a little bit about some other songs that I didn't pick that I also just want to call out because this was a great time for music. All right, here's my flat read. A traffic jam when you're already late. A no smoking sign.
I mean, Alanis Morissette, ironic.
Right?
Are
It's
you
too
joking? It's so easy.
Yeah.
But also, like, so is Killing Me Softly, and you just didn't get it.
I know, I whiffed on that. All right, can we also...
Alanis Morissette is a queen.
Yeah, that is a song that I hated with such a passion at the time that it came out, and I've really grown to appreciate her over time. Like, it took me a while. She was just...
I saw her live a couple of years ago in Shoreline, and she is incredible.
I believe that. She was just too popular at the time, I think. So anyway, all right, we can move on from that. I had a couple other things from the time machine. Just a couple things just to help us place ourselves in this time, just some world events. So Bill Clinton was president. He was running for his second term, which he would get. The Atlanta Summer Olympics, including the bombing at the Atlanta Summer Olympics, happened that summer. Tiger Woods turned pro. He was 20 years old in 1996, and that's when he turned pro. And the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski, got arrested in April of 1996. So what a time.
What a time.
Yeah. Also, a couple other quick things. That was the summer. So on the top of the movie charts in the U.S., the first Mission Impossible movie came out, which is crazy to think that Tom Cruise is still making those movies.
Whoa.
The first Twister movie, which we just had
Oh
the
my
second
God.
Twister movie. And The Cable Guy, where Jim Carrey, yeah, went dark. That's what I got.
Love it. What a time. Let's jump in real quick back to 13 Alibis. So 13 Alibis was put out by Dateline NBC in 2019. Sadly, it does not feature our beloved Dateline host, Keith Morrison. It's hosted by Dan Slepian instead. There are 8 episodes. Each one is only about 10 to 20 minutes long.
Yeah, it's crazy short. The basic story is 1996, as we've been talking about. In the Bronx, 17-year-old Jorge Collazo was murdered. So 17-year-old gets murdered. Richard Rosario was convicted, and he was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison. But Rosario had what seemed like a pretty solid alibi. He says that at the time of the murder, he wasn't even in New York. He was in Florida, and he had 13 witnesses that could verify his story. And that's
Pretty
pretty
intriguing.
much what we know. Yeah.
Yeah, let's jump in. All right, Jeff. Initial thoughts. We start with the host.
Yeah, Dan Slepian. He's not Keith Morrison, but I feel like he's
No.
Keith Morrison light in a way.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
I'm on the fence, where
Okay.
you usually are, but I'm there right now. I have a question for you. Do you find him reliable as a host?
Reliable, like a reliable narrator? Like, do I trust him?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm being a bit too harsh. I'm not intrigued by his host, but
You're
I'm
not
unsure
intrigued.
how reliable I feel he is.
Why do you say that?
I know this is kind of the opposite of what I'm saying now. So what I'm enjoying about episode 1 is he's bringing us along on his journey through this. But a lot of his narration outside of interviews or whatever feels so cheesy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I use the word smarmy.
Maybe that's where I'm going with this. There's something in my gut that thinks when we spoke about, for example, the previous host, Becky Milligan,
yeah,
who hosted the Home Babies. She seemed to really want to connect to the people that she was interviewing. She seemed really genuine. And I was wondering, is this her or is this like her journalistic style? Because it felt very genuine to me.
Yeah.
Here, I don't know how much I trust him being shocked at different things. When he's interviewing the former policeman, Bobby, who would have been, working in that area at the time, and Bobby says, we have 2 witnesses who are testifying that this was our man. We didn't have the resources to fly down to Florida or fly people up from Florida to check those alibis. So, it's up to him really to get them up here, spend his money getting them up here to prove he's innocent. And he's saying, what? I'm so shocked. Like, I was 9 in 96, but I'm not shocked by that. I'm not shocked. I'm shocked by some of this story, but let's not pretend that we're shocked that at a point in time where crime was so high in New York that the police weren't going out of their way if they have 2 solid, 2 witnesses who would have no reason to point the finger at Richard Rosario, that they didn't do it. I'm not saying it's in any way good, but I'm saying let's not pretend we're like absolutely shocked.
Yeah, I mean there's only a handful of things that happen in this episode, right? It's like 15 minutes long at best with the ads and everything. And one of them is what you're talking about, where we find out that the police never went and looked into those 13 witnesses in Florida. There were 2 eyewitnesses who didn't have any connection to Richard Rosario. So
didn't know him, just picked him out from a book. So once he had been arrested previously for stealing credit cards, and so his mugshot is in the book, and they both pick him out independently of each other.
Yeah.
Without any knowledge of who he is.
As far as we know. We don't know, and maybe this will come up later, maybe it won't, but we don't know if there was another reason why Richard Rosario was the suspect.
This is true. And we don't know if the police knew Richard Rosario and wanted, had any connection, any reason for this. We don't. That is fair. That's a fair point. I just felt it's such a short podcast, and surely one of the most important, one of the most crucial things in episode 1 of a podcast, I would think, in this setting, is to get the listeners to find you credible.
Yeah, I want to ask you though. I said he was kind of a Keith Morrison light, and I think a lot of the things, the sort of smarminess, there's a little bit of broiness to it. There's a little sort of cheapness to the way I think he does these little asides and kind of comments on what's going. It's not the same level as some things I think you had bigger issues with. I think Filthy Rituals is the one that we often come back to, where I think you really had a hard time with the host. I don't think it's quite to that level, but I do think it's a variation on what we heard in the thing about Pam with Keith Morrison. And I'm curious why it worked there and doesn't work as well, or doesn't seem to work maybe as well here.
Well, from my memory, I loved Keith Morrison's voice, but I had issues with some of the little quips he had, but then I warmed to him.
Do you think you were put off by it at first? Do you think maybe just more time here?
I mean, he just had such a great voice.
Sure. Sure.
And
no one will ever be.
It's an audio platform, so I don't know. I feel that with the thing about Pam, I was intrigued and enthralled by it, but it was a Dateline-y type of production, which is not a bad thing, but it's just a style. And maybe it's just that this is following that, but I just don't feel that I warmed to him as quickly as I would have warmed to Keith Morrison. But then again, as you said, sure, this is only what did we say, 16 minutes long?
I think about that, yeah.
So maybe it's a time thing?
I will say, I think in his defense...
I don't hate him. Okay. I just don't love him,
Which is fair. I think you've only spent a little bit of time with him. Let's spend some more time with him. Let's see how it goes. I do think we get a fair amount of information, a fair amount of context, a fair amount of story in a very short, one of the shortest podcasts that we've listened to.
Yeah, intriguing, because it's kind of similar in a way to the Home Babies, which we just happened to have done recently as well, where it's really short, but they pack it in and there's not that much filler, which I love.
I love a fillerless podcast. What do you think about Richard Rosario so far?
I kind of love him.
Why? Why do you say that?
I don't know.
Do you believe him?
I don't know. I do. 13 witnesses? And he gave himself in. Like when he heard, apparently, allegedly, I don't know, we might get to this. Apparently his story is, and the story that has been presented in episode 1 is he rang home like a week after the shooting.
Yeah.
He's in Florida. His mom says the police are looking for you in connection with this murder. He travels back by bus to New York from Florida. He calls the precinct and says, hey, like, I think you have the wrong guy. I was just in Florida. And they say, cool, we're going to pick you up. He brings his bus ticket. He brings the names, seemingly, and numbers, contact details of the 13 witnesses. And I don't know. It just seems...
What I don't understand, I know I guess I'm with you on that, but what I don't understand, and well, I guess I do understand, but I guess we'll find out how he gets convicted, how he, at this point, at the time of this podcast, he's been in prison for 20 years. He's had, I think, at least 10 appeals denied.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand all the problems with the criminal justice system. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
But also, and maybe he just never had a good lawyer. I'm presuming that's going to come up later. But it is just sort of a mystifying.
It is.
If he's innocent, which I'm sure we'll find out. And I think I'm also really intrigued. So this episode is super short, and it ends with the host, Dan Slepian, basically saying, all right, so the cops never looked into those 13 witnesses. I guess I'm going to go to Florida and try to track them down, which I really want to just go right into the second episode.
Yeah, it was hard not to listen to the second episode. And like, look, as a plot, like as a story, it's very intriguing. It also didn't really feel episode 1-y to me. I don't know why.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't know. It just didn't feel... It didn't feel like a first episode to me.
How does that make you feel, Dee?
Like the intro was like not there. There was no intro.
The intro was basically Dan Slepian, the host, kind of questioning how reliable Rosario is and wondering if you can trust him.
Do you know one thing I say I'll have a respect for about this podcast? As I said, I did like the walking us through the process. I just thought his comments were a bit smarmy, but I did think it was amazing to have so many SMEs involved. So like subject matter experts involved here. Like that police dude, what's his name again? Bobby.
Yeah.
Given his pretty honest opinion about how things were back there. A real primary source here of setting the scene as opposed to just the host telling us. I thought that was pretty interesting.
So yeah, he mentioned how like they go to the scene of the crime now, or when this podcast was recorded, which is 20 years after the crime, and he points out, there's like 3 cameras pointed at this spot, but 20 years ago there would be 0 cameras, so that didn't help his case at all.
How did that make you feel?
About the cameras? Not great. Yeah, it's mixed feelings about that.
It's a funny thing, isn't it?
How often do you notice that when you're out and about in the world?
I don't. And that's why it's so funny.
Because they're everywhere.
We were in Vegas recently, and I feel like you notice it more there. Well, maybe it's because I'm more aware that like there's cameras everywhere in the casinos in Vegas.
There definitely are.
And just to clarify, like walking through a casino with my kids, one of them stepped onto like the carpet beside the slot machines because he was like, I want to play this game. And like that, someone was up being like, a child can't be there.
Wow.
I was like, where did this person come from? You know, there's a real sense that you're being watched, which was not a bad thing. We were just walking through, but you notice it there. I wouldn't notice it anywhere else.
When you notice it, so like couple hours ago, I was driving home and I got passed by this motorcycle, and it had one of those sticks sticking out the back with a camera on the end, which is basically, I think, honestly, a safety thing for the motorcycle rider, right? Because it's recording people if there's an accident or whatever. But I've also, like, a lot of people have dash cams, right? Like, a lot of people are just sort of recording, and like so many times I'm out and about in the world and someone is filming something, or whether it's with their phone or like, honestly, I feel like in the last like couple of weeks I've walked into people shooting like some type of music video, or I don't know what they're shooting, but like people doing
like a TikTok or something.
Yeah, like people doing like choreographed dance numbers and things, and I'm just like, I don't really want to be in the background of this, but it's kind of inescapable if you're just out in the world.
It is. Do you know, I have some, God, we could go down a rabbit hole on this. I have some I have strong feelings about this because it happens quite often. I feel like when my kids are in after school or like extracurricular activities. So my daughter's going to gymnastics and all the parents can like sit around like on steps and stuff and watch, and some parents film it. And I just don't think it's appropriate to film all the other kids. There could be a grandparent filming. Really, I don't know if they're a grandparent. I don't know if they're a parent. They could have just walked in. Likely not. There are people at the desk, but that doesn't make me feel good. And the same when my son is in martial arts. He's being filmed by different parents, and the parents don't see it as an issue. Or, you know, you go to like a water park or water area and people are filming. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I wouldn't. If I was filming my kids, I'd be really trying not to make sure I'm not getting anyone else in the background.
That's interesting.
I just think it's something we need to take pause on and kind of... I went to a concert last week. People are just filming it. Your footage is shite. Watch what's in front of you.
Okay.
Don't let me watch a concert through your phone because you all want to like record this beautiful moment. It's not going to be beautiful when you look back on it on your phone because your phone is taking shite footage.
All right, this is a thing. I have strong opinions about this. I've been at so many concerts where all I can see is the stage through the people's phones in front of me. I went to one concert. It was Jack.
And you're tall. Can you imagine if you're not?
I went to Jack White at Shoreline where he made you put phones in those little pouches. Have you ever been to one of those? Where you have to do
No.
that? Okay. It was weird at first because basically like I went with one of my kids. And we basically just had our phones in these little like locked pouches in our pockets, which meant before. Okay, so first of all, while the concert was going on, I could just look at the stage. No one had their phones out. No one was taking videos. And that was great. The other side benefit of that is between acts, before the first act came on and then between acts, people were talking to each other. Strangers were talking to each other because no one had their phones. We just talked to the people behind us, in front of us, both sides of us. Everyone was just being so much more social.
Yeah.
I wish life was like that more.
I know.
Anyway, all right, we can move on.
I will also say with frustrations, and obviously I presume this is a frustration of yours as well, but like one frustration, not with the podcast, but with the story, is hearing how money impacts the depth of the case and the investigation. It's not shocking to me, as I said before, but to say if you get someone good enough, that's kind of what they're saying. Not, do we have the right person?
Yeah. Can we close the books on this case, right?
Yeah. Can we make sure the stats say that we got someone for it?
And part of that calculation is someone who doesn't have the resources to fight back.
Well, this is the thing, because if Richard Rosario did, or even maybe if he had the mind to get people up, and we'll find out like what happened, why his alibi witnesses didn't come up. Did he know that if they came up, it could have had a benefit? Yeah, that's obviously frustrating. As I said, it's not shocking, given the state of things at that stage. How eager are you to keep listening?
I'm very eager. I think, like I said, the first episode leaves you on a cliffhanger, which seems very Dateline-y, but works. Like, it's effective. I think I am definitely intrigued. Like, I think it's a story about a quest for justice, like a guy who was wrongly imprisoned, which...
We think he's wrongly imprisoned.
Well, right. That's the question. And I think it's presented in a way that's intriguing enough that I definitely want to keep listening. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, I've been pretty critical, but like I'm in, of course. Like, I need to know what has actually happened. Is it going to turn around that he is just making this whole thing up? Is he a Pam in this situation who's just like inserted himself and is just going with it and trying to get out? Don't know.
Yeah, I want to find out.
Cannot wait.
Before we get to our question of the week, we just want to remind you to subscribe on Patreon. It's patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. We post early access to episodes, bonus clips, longer versions of episodes. It's really where you want to be. So go check us out, patreon.com/so-much-crime, so little time. All right, D, our true crime question of the week. This is a story about witnesses and alibis. So my question for you, have you ever been a witness to a crime?
I just thought I had a crime in mind, and then I thought of a different crime that was kind of funny because it ended up not being a crime. But so we pulled in, me and a friend. She was driving, as she pulled into a gas station or a petrol station if you're at home in Ireland.
What kind of station was the first one you said?
A gas station. So she pulled into the petrol station and it's like late 10 o'clock or something, so it's dark, and she is going in. She thinks it's open. It's basically not. But as she walks up to the door, she just turns around and calmly strolls back to the car, gets in and is like, I think there's a robbery happening in there.
Wait, what?
I was like, maybe like leave. Let's leave. So we leave and we call the police to say we think there's a robbery going on. And they take the details or whatever and come down to like check it out. So we've obviously gone at this stage. And then about an hour later, she was like, I need to know what happened. So she pops into the like local Garda station. So we just like stopped by and we went in. And she was like, I reported it. And he was just like, they just had turned off the lights and had hoods up. They were the workers that were just leaving. Like they were just going. It was kind of funny.
That's great.
Go on.
I was at the office where we work on a day when no one else was there. I was the only person there. It was 7:30 in the morning. And I smelled smoke. And I thought that there was a wildfire burning because it was wildfire season. And I didn't think much about it. And then I turned around and realized behind me there was a literal dumpster fire. There was a dumpster outside of the building that was on fire. And I got to call, well, actually, there was another office building that had called the fire department, but had to come and give a statement to the fire chief who came. There was a fire truck and there's a couple of fire trucks.
Oh my God, can I wear your hat?
Yes, I asked to jump in the truck and turn on the siren. But yeah, so that was, and then I had to basically give all my information so they could verify what happened. But yeah, dumpster fire.
I just thought of another one that was bizarre. But on our wedding day, our driver, oh my God, if I could change one thing about our wedding day, it was our driver. He fucking wrecked my head. He wouldn't stop talking. Like, we're being driven to the church, me and my dad in the back of the car, like, should be having, a moment. And he just wouldn't stop talking. I was actually like, how do I tell you to shut up? But anyway, we left the church, went to the pub for a reception just off Grafton Street. And then Paul and I jumped into the car to go to a beach nearby to get photos. And the road that the beach is on is quite narrow. So for a car to park so we could get out and be close enough to where we wanted to be, he was like, I'll just like mount the curb and go up onto the pavement. And he genuinely was so close to taking out a jogger. And the jogger then like started giving out to him. And your man was like, oh, they're getting married, or they got married today. And he's like, I don't give a shit if they got married. You nearly killed me. Like,
with a car.
Yeah, and we're like, hey, we're newlyweds. Like with our bubbles in the back of the car. Like,
wow. All right. That's
anyway.
Good. All right. That is our true crime question of the week. Next time, we'll discuss all of 13 alibis.
Will there be justice for Richard Rosario?
And if Richard Rosario didn't commit the murder, will we ever know who did?
That's on the next So Much Crime,
So Little Time. So Much Crime, So Little Time is a production of Mind Glove Media. The executive producer is Paxi Caloriso. Our associate producer is Blythe Tide. Our theme music was composed by Vyacheslav Starostin. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe to this show on your podcast app. Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating and a review. Even better, tell your friends. To join the discussion, look for us on social media. Check out the show notes for all the links. Thanks for listening.